Welcome to the Artist Loft, the talk show for all artists. Join us each show as we spotlight a variety of different creatives, hosted by the Florida Arts Network, with Richard Sosa and Frank A. Ruffolo.
Well, welcome back to the Artist Loft. I'm Frank Ruffolo. This is Richard Sosa. We're brought to you by AMP Media Productions and the Florida Arts Network.
Thanks for joining us. Today we've got a really cool guest. We have Sandy Lighterman, who is the Broward County Film Commissioner and President of Film Florida. And so we've got a couple of interesting things to talk about today. So as soon as we can get Sandy on. Oh, and there she is.
There I am.
Hey, Sandy, how are you?
Downloaded from the cloud.
Good, how are you?
Good, good. Thanks for being on the show.
Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
why don't you go ahead and just tell the audience a little bit about what you do, and then we're going to get into some juicy stuff.
Oh, okay. So what do I do? As the Broward County Film Commissioner for Film Lauderdale, I am tasked with attracting production into our community. I am tasked with that's for economic development and job creation, because this is a high-paying industry, and that is what the county really wants to bring in. I'm also tasked with I want to say nurturing our local content creators. That's part of what we do. And permitting. That's the other thing. So that's not really all that I do, but that's, otherwise it'll take me 10 minutes to tell you what I do in the day. So
Yeah, so suffice to say, you have a lot on your plate.
yeah, I do.
Yeah.
But I love it. Doing it for
Yeah.
a while. So yeah.
Yeah, and part of what we want to do as well is encourage content creators and encourage collaboration. We're always looking for other nonprofits that are kind of doing something similar to what we're doing, and because there's strength in numbers, we want to work together. And there's always so much going on in this industry, and right now the big news is the SAG-AFTRA strike.
Ooh. Yes,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
there's a lot going on with that, and how is that affecting the film industry down here?
Well, I have some, I want to say some big projects that are circling the airport but can't land because, there's the writer's strike and there's the SAG is striking as well. So both the Screen Actors Guild and the Writers Guild are striking. I won't go into what their beef is, but it's between the studios. So big projects, right? That's what's not coming in here. Currently, what we do have though are commercials. A lot of commercials are still shooting.
Yes.
They're on a different contract, and so are smaller films. But anything that is Writers Guild, Screen Actors Guild, studio, it could even be an independent that would be being bought by a studio or a streamer, either one, that no one's going to cross the picket line. So that's where we are, and I'm sure everybody's seen the picket lines that are splashed across every news feed, every TikTok. So it's delayed us being able to bring in production as Richard, and I've been in this position a year and a half, right? And prior to this, I was in Miami-Dade County for 14 years, and prior to that, I was a producer. But so we're in the infancy of developing the industry locally. So that it actually is just it's kind of put a stop on that being able to go in that direction. But that said, that gives me the ability to get to know more of our local content creators. I've been at a lot of events. I've been meeting a lot of people and connecting a lot of people. So that's what it's all about. Is actually part of what I do is getting to know the locals in our community, the artists, what they're doing, what they want to do, and then trying to connect them with other people that are like-minded so that projects can be made. So that is definitely in my wheelhouse, and it's passion for me as well.
Yeah, yeah, and this kind of thing is a passion for me as well. And it's so funny because it's like I'm very ADHD. Okay, so I've got like a million questions running around in my head, and it's like, okay, which one am I going to ask first? Um, so I know that one of the things that has affected filming here as well is state incentives. And we've been trying to get those back for a while, and we don't seem to be making any ground as far as that goes. But there are local incentives, though, correct?
Yeah, and
Yes, very lucky to have that. Yes.
one thing I wanted to ask, interject here, as you're the president of Film Florida, how you can reflect as to what they are also doing with this project.
You're talking about with the strike across the state?
Yeah, and incentives.
Yeah. Okay. So, well, that's going to be a long conversation. So,
Well,
with the strike itself, it's affecting areas in Florida the same way because we don't have a statewide incentive, and the reason that I have projects that are waiting in the wings is because I do have a large incentive program. So, do you want me to tell you about the local incentive, or do you want me to talk about the state first? Because
Well, let's talk about the state first, and then tell us about the local.
Okay. Okay, so as some people know, most people know that we had an incentive program from 2010 to 2016. There's a lot that goes on with that, but we really ran out of money in 2013. So all of the big projects that were here, right, that were in South Florida, actually across the state, were brought in by that incentive program. When that incentive program sunsetted, so did the projects that were here. And we've lost infrastructure and crew because we don't have state incentives. So let me explain though also that there's 40 other states. There's 40 states that have incentives. 40 out of 50. That's a large amount. So we have a lot of competition
Yeah.
by not having just itself you have competition. Then put on top of that you don't have a state's incentive program, and other people do, as well as, or other states do, as well as other countries do.
Mm-hmm.
So it puts us at a huge disadvantage, the entire state. So it's we have yes, we have been working at this, and I've been with Film Florida for I guess probably 13 years. Probably in my 15 of being in the industry. So and I've been in leadership with Film Florida and with the legislative effort. And if you're asking why, there's many reasons why we don't have one. One thing that I think there's a misnomer or misconception, people that don't understand why we don't have the money to have an incentive program like Georgia. We enjoy not having a state income tax, right? We all love that.
Right.
There's no state income tax. But therefore, there's no big pot of money to pull from. So most every other state has state income tax, right? So they have a large pool of money to pull from. So that makes it more difficult because we're in line against, homeless, or we're in line, workforce housing, or, beach renourishment. So that's part of it. There's also been an ideology in Tallahassee that has been no incentives, that we shouldn't be incentivizing any industry, the film industry. Why would we pick one industry over another to incentivize? But though we try to educate that, it's the problem is that we have so much competition. So if no one had incentives, it would be awesome because we'd be number 3 in the nation again. That's where we
Yes.
were when there were
Yeah.
no incentive. So it's difficult because I equate it. If you go to a grocery store, right? You're looking for where you're going to go shopping, and one has a BOGO and the other doesn't, and that's what you want. You're going to go to the BOGO, right?
Yeah.
Or you're going to change what you eat that week to do that because that's cost effective. So
Yeah.
that's the same thing that happens with productions. So they'll either write Florida out of the script, or or they will imitate Florida somewhere else, which has gone on
Yeah.
quite a bit. So this has been we've brought bills. Film Florida is the organization that actually does bring the bills forward. We're the ones that we have a lobbying team that's it's a Film Florida, so people understand. Film Florida is a nonprofit organization of industry stakeholders across the state. So it is membership funded. So if the membership goes to helping not only market the state, it also goes to the incentive, fighting for an incentive program,
Right.
as well as other initiatives. There's educational initiatives and others, but we're talking about the incentive program itself.
Yeah.
So we have a lobbying team. We listen to what they tell us, right, and we have to follow the direction we need to go in. And we've come from every different direction with a program, and it hasn't worked. However, we have been for a couple of years going again and again with a very similar type of program. So this year, I'm advocating for us not to bring a bill forward, so that we can regroup and find a different approach to this. Don't know what that is yet, but we're working on it. So go ahead.
And what I was going to say when we were talking about funding any industry in particular, I've heard people say, "Oh, it's like corporate welfare," but isn't it more of an incentive? Isn't it? I've heard that every dollar that goes into incentives can actually generate as much as $7 to $15 worth of income through tourism and stuff like that. So it's not welfare.
So in other states, not Florida, not any program that we have put forward, a lot of states incentivize for above the line that are not residents. So a lot of that, misconception is based on that they're paying for residents that, non-residents. And then that goes into the whole corporate welfare. The truth is that, the incentives bring production so that the locals can get hired. That's the whole point. Yeah. There are rules so you can hire locally, you can spend the money in the local communities, and that's where most of the money, a good bit of that budget is spent, is on and wherever you're shooting. And we've never put a program forward that incentivized above the line. So actors, high level, producers. I mean, if there was a cap on your salary if you were a local producer. So it's been a very conservative program that we put forward. Just has not stuck. And it's also, our leadership has been in Tallahassee for quite a few years, has been against incentives in general. So they feel that no matter what, whether it be production or anything else, that it's going to come here no matter what. And that's just not the case. Well, we do have production, but we don't have the production that we should be having, right?
Yeah.
That's the point. I will go back to the numbers in Miami-Dade County when we had the height of the incentives. There was $500 million. It was just about, not just under $500 million a year that came into the local economy, and then it went down to about 125 million. So that shows the huge difference of what what an incentive program can do. And sometimes it's hard to change ideology, right? So we're looking to come at it in a different way.
Yeah.
I don't know what that way is yet, but I'm going to find it. As it just
look at the numbers. They need to look at the numbers. Yeah.
Yeah. The problem, there's a lot more than that, but I'm not going to, there's a lot more that goes into this in politics. And it's a very
it's always
tangled
politics.
web. Yes. And yes. And,
I know. So these
Tallahassee's
productions,
a special
yeah.
place.
So these productions are going to states like New Jersey, New Mexico, Louisiana that have incentives. Canada has incentives. They're doing a lot of filming up there too. It's crazy. And Florida is such a great place to film. I mean, we have everything that they need. They can film all year long. Well, we don't have mountains.
Just
we don't.
Hold on, Richard. We have Vista View, which is it's a big hill, which is a park in Broward. County. So we do have hills. I will
Yeah,
tell you
we
that.
have
You can drive the
hills.
car all the way up the hill.
Yeah, Mount Trashmore in Pompano.
Yeah, Mount Trashmore. Didn't Rock of Ages?
But that's still, but Mount Trashmore is still a working, it's still a working landfill. The Vista View is a closed landfill for 20 years. It's a park. So it's green and it's beautiful. So
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. But we do have
It's
amazing
crazy.
locations. And we have amazing crew. We have content creators that are, have interesting stories to tell. So, yes.
And we
And
have heard that a lot of people from out of the country want to film here. They
Yeah,
love Florida and they
they
want to
do.
film here.
They
yeah.
do, but it is dollars and cents. Comes down to a
That's what
budget,
it
and
is. It's
everybody
dollars and cents.
understands, right? It is. And as a former producer, I get it. I get the fact that if
Yeah.
you were going to get 30% back, in another state, then why wouldn't you rewrite your script to so that you could put more of that money on the screen? And that's also a misconception, is that the the studio streamers, whoever that that are funders, that money is going to go back into a pocket. It actually goes back onto the screen most of the time, right? So you can have a better end product.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, and then
yeah,
you have investors. I mean, they want to be
yeah,
able to make their money. You want to protect their investments. So you look at things
yep.
like investments and or incentives and product placement and distribution deals and all this other stuff. It's all about the
Well,
bottom line.
right. Investors actually want to know what the incentives are. They're savvy enough to know, what are the incentives, and if there aren't any, they don't want to go. So that's a huge issue, and I fight against that issue, that perception with my new incentive program, because people still have the conception that we don't have anything here, but luckily I do. So I'll tell you
Okay,
about that.
so
I'll tell
So
you about
that, there's a
I'll tell you
there's a
about
segue.
there's a segue as to what Fort Lauderdale and Broward does.
Well, let me tell you, first of all, I will tell you that I could not be doing any of this without absolute support from Broward County government, from the county administration, county administrator, Monica Sapiro, or the county commissioners and the mayor. They're all incredibly supportive of this industry. The only reason that, that I'm able to have these programs is because of their support. And then I'll go into sort of the how that spreads out to other municipalities. But let me tell you about the two programs. So we had one program that actually was debuted in June of 2022. That was the first program that's still in place. That is a $400,000 minimum spend for 15% back, up to $175,000 a project. There are caveats. 60% has to be shot in Broward County, 55% crew between Broward and Miami-Dade, 50% vendors have to be Broward vendors. But what that is, that brings in the smaller productions, right? That brings in the $1 million productions, and that's a great sweet spot, because a lot of those type of productions in bigger states that have incentives, they get pushed to the side because there's so much other big stuff, and
Right.
so therefore they can't find crew. There's a lot of things that happen that it gets more expensive for them because they're fighting against the big guys, right? So that makes it for a sweet spot for us to have this type of incentive program. So in April of this year, I launched a new program. I will just say, before I tell you about the program, it was an absolute halt right away because the writer's strike happened right after I launched the program. So
Oh,
I knew it. I had been selling the program that I knew was going to come to pass. It was just things that we had to, programs that we had to, get approved by the commission, things that took time on the government side. But I knew that I was going to be able to have this program. So this program, I have a $10 million pot of money. It's a one-time pot of money the program it's what we call the special projects program, and it's for larger projects. So it's feature films and TV series. That's where it's aimed at. It's 5 million minimum spend. You can spend as much as you want, but 5 million minimum spend. 10% back, up to $1.5 million a project. So that can attract TV series, that really want to come here. That is so what I would do with that, say a TV series is coming in, I'll put 3 years, 1.5 million, right, a year for 3 years aside, so that won't be spent, so that they know that they have money, so that they can continue on to have their series and feel
Nice.
guaranteed that they would have. So that's I happened to be in Los Angeles in March, so I was meeting with all the bigs, all the streamers and the studios, and they're all ready to go. They're like, this is great, so let's see what the projects are. And so I had 2 that are ready, but we're waiting. So that's why we put a stop on that. But let me tell you something about what big productions or bigger productions do for our local content creators. Since our local content creators are usually work in this industry, whether they're, gripping, PAing, whatever they're doing, they need to make money to be able to then, put money into their projects, right? And then also, right, be able to then live, right? So that is what it actually, it helps. Bigger projects actually help local content creators. So that's what I say.
Yeah, and the local content creators have such a passion for what they're doing. It's they haven't they haven't.
They inspire me. That inspires me, actually.
Yeah, yeah. Because
Yeah.
I'm at networking events all the time, and I'm constantly talking to different content creators, and they love what they do so much. Some of them would do it, whether they're making money or not, because it's coming from here.
Yeah, that's right.
So
It's a creative outlet. Yeah.
yeah.
No, we have a very passionate community. It's something. So I'm going to say something that I was going to talk about before. One thing also as building this this community for bigger projects and smaller projects, right? I've been working with the municipalities, and that's really important, right? Because the municipalities are the ones where most everything is shot, right? So getting everybody on board to be film friendly is really important. So I'm going to kind of dial that back to the local content creators, right? The art community in Broward County, arts, culture, and film, all work together. And that for me is gold, because I've been in other places that wasn't the case, where everybody worked against each other because they wanted to make their own name. And what I find here is that the content creators want to meet other content creators, which is the way to go to build. That's how you build an industry, right? So they can meet and they can work together on projects. And that's building a cluster, and that's building a community, and that's building a very artistic community.
Yep, and that's what we're all about here at Florida Arts Network. Now we have about 2 minutes left. If you can tell everybody how I know, right? IKR. If you can tell everybody how they can get involved with Film Florida real quick.
Yeah. Okay. So, well, that's very easy. Just go to filmflorida.org. But Film Florida, as I said, is a nonprofit organization. There's many different initiatives besides legislative. There's marketing initiatives to try to bring projects here. There's emerging filmmaker grants. There's finishing funds, and those go to actually members, right? So if you're a member, you have the ability to tap into those funds. And there's a whole educational component. Almost every university that has a film program in the state, it belongs to Film Florida. Has 500 members, including crew, cast, ancillary businesses, hotels, and lighting and grip, and you name it. We have production.
All right.
Companies. We have a lot. So
very
just go
cool.
to filmflorida.org and it's right there. And hopefully visit filmlauderdale.org to find out more information about what we're doing in Broward County, and follow us on social media.
Yes, and follow us as well, FloridaArtsNetwork.org. You can contact us there. You can donate there. find out what we're all about. Sandy, thank you so much for being on the show. Really appreciate all your insight.
No, my pleasure.
Let's do it
was too
again.
short.
Let's do it again.
We'll
and
have
we,
to do
and
it
we
again.
hope,
We'll have to do
and
part
we hope
two.
the Florida Arts Network and Film Florida can get together and grow
Yeah,
together.
I think that's great.
Yeah.
You know, let's do something about that for sure. Sounds great.
All right, Sandy. Thanks so much.
Thanks for having me.
All right.
All right, take care, Sandy.
All right, guys. So you heard from Sandy about some of the stuff regarding the film incentives and Film Florida, all the different things that we can get done. And don't forget to contact us here at floridaartsnetwork.org. It's right there on the screen. We are also looking for sponsors. We're looking for people that want to be on the show, and we are looking for advertisers as well. So contact us there and let us know how we can help you.
Right. And if you're free this Sunday, between 10 and 5 p.m. at Wellaby Park and Sunrise, we're having a potluck. So come on down. You may win a cruise.
All right. You all have a good night.
Take care now.
Thank you for watching The Artist Loft. Make sure to tune in next time for another great show. A show that was produced by Ant Media Productions and hosted by the Florida Arts Network with your hosts Richard Sosa and Frank A. Ruffolo.